Hello fellow egoists! In today's video we'll be analyzing chapter 222 of the Blue Lock manga. There's a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. The chapter first starts with Isagi posing like he's a mannequin and Hiori being riled up from seeing the play that just happened. The guy who only thought of football as an escape wants to join this high-level chess game. If you want to see why, you can check my video about Hiori's ego, which I'll link in the description. After this, we get a shot of the formation that bastard Munchen is going for, with Isagi and Kaiser focusing themselves on their fight to score the most goals. On Uber's side though, we get a total revamp of their team. We see the Berserker formation come into play. While it's called Berserker formation, it's actually a pretty stable composition, and I'll let you guys read this great comment from a good friend of mine if you want to see why. And from now on, let's take a look at the state of the field. As Isagi says, this team composition takes full advantage of Niko and Lorenzo for a total midfield takeover. With a fast tempo, Lorenzo and Niko trade passes, though as they do, Isagi is focusing. He found it, the weak spot of their passing tempo. Though before he can get to that, Snuffy comes and intercepts the pass. With the fact that Isagi couldn't see him and the way he was coming, we can guess that Snuffy went for a run totally outside of Isagi's vision, which should look something like this. Though Snuffy does acknowledge Isagi's vision, but while he's focusing on his next play, Noah comes from the right side to double press Snuffy with Isagi. We see that Snuffy lifts the ball and stops Noah from clearing the ball, while keeping the two at bay with his arm placement. Here we get to see what Karasu's dribbling using his hands looks like when used by a peak world-class striker. Using the movement that he just did to lift the ball, Snuffy turns around and passes to Lorenzo, who once again moved perfectly to be in Snuffy's surroundings. Lorenzo immediately makes a pass to Niko, and this is important because it means that Raishi is able to hold Lorenzo well enough that he can't move freely. So props to Raishi for keeping a new generation 11 player at bay. Though, as shown on the map of the field, Ness comes to press him immediately, calling his attack trash, but as we see in the next page, and Niko says it, it's actually Ness that is blind to the state of the field. Here we see that Yuki and Birkenstock, the left side defenders, were caught up in Uber's tempo and tried to press Snuffy's run to stop him. With this, Bastard Munchen totally played into Snuffy's hand. As he says best himself, don't give the opponent time to think. With all of Bastard Munchen's defense so shifted on the left, a highway to the goal was made for Barou, who went on the opposing side. Though we see two people right behind him, Isagi and Kaiser. As Barou traps the ball, he uses Predator eyes to stare deeply into Gagamaru's soul and prepare to shoot. But as he does shoot, he gets trash-talked by the two aces of Bastard Munchen, who immediately come to block his shot, with the bench warmers of Bastard Munchen hyped to see it, especially Hiori. Though as the ball flies high up, Isagi feels the realization coming in. The field isn't controlled by Kaiser, him, or even Noah. With one of the coldest panels we've seen so far, we get a look at the architect who found his new design to use, Mark Snuffy. All in all, the chapter was simply incredible. We got to see Snuffy into action and his use of metavision. Though he has a standard metavision design, meaning that there isn't something deeply related to his ego like Isagi or Reo. After all, it seems he only went into this playmaker persona after the death of his best friend. Though while Snuffy was the big highlight of this chapter, the big fodder this time has been Ness. Totally out of place and doing one of his worst performances yet, being totally lost on the field. Though he isn't the only one I feel underwhelmed by. King Barou here lost his chance to score by using Predator eyes. While it may be the best to find a scoring option, it isn't necessarily an option to use at all times. By focusing on Gagamaru after his trap, he wasted precious time that let Kaiser and Isagi catch up to him, thereby blocking his shot. So not only does this show that Predator eyes are an ability that shouldn't be used every time, but also that Isagi's direct shot and Kaiser's Kaiser impact are incredible weapons as they give them the leeway and opportunity to not waste any time while preparing their shots. The most important point though are that we not only get the confirmation that Kaiser also has Predator eyes thanks to his design, but also that Barou needs to go into flow to use Predator eyes. So while Barou needs to focus a lot to be able to use Predator eyes, Kaiser is able to use it at will. And thanks to that I have other things in mind, such as his surroundings. If we compare Kaiser's goal to Barou, while Barou was too hung up on immediately using Predator eyes and by doing so lost focus of his surroundings, Kaiser used metavision and only after seeing that he was free to use Predator eyes did he use them. Right after the block from Kaiser and Isagi, we see Hiori saying their names out loud. Why was he amazed by them? Because they used metavision to find the best place to defend. And finally, the most important part to analyze and to get us to our next part of the video, the final quote that we use for our predictions of next chapter. we're set up to get a Meshda Vision user face-off, Isagi vs Snuffy, and for those who have seen my video on Isagi's ego, you know how I think Isagi's metavision could evolve. We might get a sneak peek at Isagi's original ego and how he uses his senses. Through his senses, Isagi could feel what he doesn't see. For example, if Snuffy once again goes for a play that makes people pay attention to him or another person then makes a pass, Isagi could feel around him the positioning of all the players and guess Snuffy's plan that way. An example of him having already done that is against Niko in the first selection where he felt Niko without even seeing him. Or when he stopped Chris Sprint's shot without even looking at it, even though it was supposed to be the most random shot in existence. Though the next chapter is titled Can You Die, and there are only 2 characters I see able to say this line. Ness about Isagi or Kaiser about Lorenzo. So we may get Isagi blocking Snuffy's goal but then getting fucked over by Ness, or Kaiser about to devour Isagi and block Snuffy, but getting tagged by Lorenzo, and so Snuffy or Barou scores thanks to Lorenzo's block of Kaiser. And with this we're done with the video. I could have made it better and honestly go way further with the analysis, but I'm about to move out and I didn't have the time to spend too much on this video, especially since I'm working on the video about Kaiser's future, and honestly I want to make it as perfect as I can, so I'm not spending that much time on this video. I hope you understand and you had a great time watching the video nonetheless. And with this, have a great night or a great day, fellow egoists.